US President Barack Obama is bringing civil rights activists and law enforcement officials to the White House. The meeting is designed to repair tensions between police and residents. The meeting comes after a memorial for 5 police officers who were gunned down by a sniper. The attack happened during a civil rights protest in Dallas, Texas last week. The protest itself was sparked by the fatal police shootings of 2 black men in the US states of Louisiana and Minnesota. Well, let's speak to Peter Mathews. He joins me live from Los Angeles. He's a professor of political science at Cypress College. Welcome to the programme. Do you think this meeting is going to be a success, first of all? And what are the civil society groups and local leaders actually going to hope to achieve here?
Well, I think that it's a very difficult task right now, but it needs to be done. And time will tell if it'll be a success or not. But it's a good thing the president's attempting to bring people together from the various factions or opposing groups in this conflict. And we have to remember that African American unemployment rate is twice as high as the average and twice as high as white unemployment rate, and Asian American unemployment rate and Latino unemployment rate is about 6%, which is also high. But it has to do with jobs in the inner city that's been taken out of the country through outsourcing, a lot of despair because of that. And you find young African American men, being harassed quite often by some of the police officers that are not engaged in the community as much. Now, let me say something else. Community-based policing is what's needed to fix this problem. The president recognizes this. Community-based policing, where you have more police on the street talking to the community, but you also have them involved with the people, with after-school programs. And you have to bring jobs back as well. So this is the major problem the president is talking about. He says, we cannot just go on with this violence. We have to invest in America, in parts of the inner city especially, in bringing back jobs and education. That's a big part of his point, and he's trying to hear from the police as well. They're under a lot of stressful position as well when they're understaffed and overburdened. And as the Dallas mayor said, we ask so much of our police force, and yet we give them so little resources. There's a major problem on both sides here, but especially you have to consider that African American people as a whole have been discriminated against, and they're still suffering under a lot of institutional racism and also personal racism that exacerbates the problem considerably.
Following the shooting, President Obama was calling on Americans to remain united. Is that message getting through?
Of course it's going to get through. People can hear the words, but the question is, what can they do about their hearts in trying to walk in the other person's shoes? I was very encouraged that Hillary Clinton said that white Americans need to walk in the shoes of black Americans and put themselves in their shoes to understand how they might feel. It will be impossible to do that 100%, but it's an attempt to do that is very important. Just as the young African American males who are victims of a lot of this violence from the shooting, sometimes, occasionally, at times, they're not even armed. They should also put themselves in the shoes of the police to see how difficult the job is. And it's very tough to do that when your life experiences are so different. That's why you need community-based policing, where you can actually have police from the community, hire people from the community to become police, to train them and to get them to refer young people to after-school programs and get jobs in that inner city. That's what's going to solve the problem to some extent. But it does take reaching out to the other groups that you're not a member of, and that's what it's all about here. And this country has a long ways to go. It's come a long ways since the civil rights struggles, but it's still got a long ways to go. I mean, if you look at graduation rates, for example, the graduation rates from high school is far less for African Americans than it is for white Americans and for the average American. So we have to encourage schools to be more funded better, to have higher quality teaching in the inner cities and the lower income areas of America. We have great disparities still here between rich and poor. And the main reason for all of this is racism, as well as the gap between rich and poor and the deindustrialization of the inner city, other parts of America, with jobs being outsourced. And that's what the presidential candidates should be talking about and come up with real solutions, as the president is trying to do.
How did both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump react to Barack Obama's speech? And is that going to affect the way they carry out their campaigning?
There were 2 different reactions to this volatile situation. Donald Trump said that this phrase, Black Lives Matter, is divisive, he said. And yet he was also sympathetic to those who were victims of the shooting, but he said the police have to be backed 100%. Now, in other words, he's saying that the phrase is divisive, but in reality, it's a very meaningful and important phrase, because African American lives have not mattered equally for the last 400 years, starting with the 3/5 compromise in our Constitution, which calls an African American slave 3/5 of a person for purposes of representation and taxation. That was the beginning of the United States Constitution. After the Civil War, when there was formal equality given to African American males, there was still a reaction with the Night Riders, the Ku Klux Klan, the white hate groups. And you see there's a lot of discrimination today, even in jobs and employment. The same couple going for job interviews who are white with the same qualifications are much more likely to get the job than African-American couple or someone going in for housing or for jobs. So that has to be worked on, and Black lives should matter, and it is not mattering fully. That's what the phrase means. It doesn't say that no other lives matter. It means that definitely we have to focus on those who are the most discriminated against and make sure that their lives really matter in practice, not just in theory. And Hillary Clinton came up with the other phrase I thought that was quite good when she said that we need to walk in each other's shoes, especially white Americans should walk in the shoes of African Americans to know what it's like, to think about facing the constant indignities that are faced by African Americans at times in this country. Obviously, we have an African American president, which is the first in history, and that shows the American people have been open to accepting each other 100%, but they still have long ways to go in practice and also on the ground in these inner cities and in the areas that are volatile, mainly because of economic disparity and despair.
Okay, Peter Mathews, live from Los Angeles. Good to have your insight. Thank you.